To Obama's address and the entire Syria crisis is author of the New York Times bestseller, The Price of Politics. Now, that comes out in paperback on September the 17th. Bob Woodward, welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Little hypocrisy based on what he said then versus now?
Well, first of all, if you look at the speech overall, the center of it, the core of it, is the moral outrage he feels about these chemical attacks in Syria, particularly about the children dying on the cold hospital floor. And I think most people would share that outrage. The part of the problem here is that he does not make his moral argument is not clean. Simply because he says, okay, there's this awful atrocity. What we're going to do are these military attacks that don't really connect to the weapons operation or the leader of Syria, Mr. Assad, whom Obama said several years ago needs to go. So the remedy is mightily insufficient. It's as if there's a murder in a house, a stabbing, and the police say, oh, we're going to go in and confiscate all the knives. It just isn't enough, and I think people see that disconnect.
Well, I agree when you say it doesn't suffice. I think you're right. I have a lot of trouble with what they have telegraphed in terms of what it is that they proposed here. John Kerry saying it's going to be unbelievably small, no boots on the ground, days, not weeks, and no, this is not about the regime change that we called for 2 years ago. I have a lot of problems with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Do you think in any way that could be effective?
No, I think first of all, in fairness, and you probably aren't going to agree with this, but I think this is a real tough case that Obama has, and there needs to be at least some sympathy in wrestling with it. I think they need to go back to the drawing boards and think strategically, which is, what are our goals? They need to really lay those out clearly. Do they want to get Assad out? Do they want to eliminate chemical weapons? Do they just want to kind of neutralize the situation so it's not in the news? And then they need to look at what are the means that are available. Diplomacy, military action, covert action, which might work in this case, or assist them in some way. And then how do you use those available means efficiently and coherently? And that's what they haven't done. This doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, and they keep stepping deeper into it, if you will. I mean, the president drew his red line. Okay, he did that a year ago, but then he comes out this week and says, no, that was Congress's red line. No, that was his red line. And similarly,
he said it was the world's.
The world and Congress's red line, right? But the same with regime change.
To a certain extent, that's true. It is the world's red line because there is this treaty, but he's got to lead, and he's got to define here. He's trying the diplomatic track. I think he's found the Russians less hostile than the U.S. Congress, and so he's playing that card. Now, I think you have to give him some time to do that. It could work, but as I say, back to the drawing boards here and really think this out and explain it in a way that somebody like you, who's a real Obama critic, will say, okay, at least that makes sense on the surface.
Now, well, forget about me. I think the vast majority of the American people reading these polls don't think this is a coherent policy. It reminds me a little bit of your book in as much as the handling of fiscal matters, and though it seems that they're not really managing the White House very well on very important matters. I don't see this president leading. I'm concerned the most here, Bob, about Vladimir Putin, because he's been very hostile, poking his finger in America's eye and sending ships there and threatening to put a shield up in Syria. Yeah. Now he's offering these defenses to Iran and calling John Kerry a liar. That Russian reset didn't work out that well either.
No, that's true, and but you have to use all of the options and try to take all of the paths. I think this is kind of part of the price of politics, that you play politics with these things and you don't solve the problem. In all the fiscal cliff negotiations, which I write about, coming out in this paperback edition, I mean, it makes your head hurt and really
painful.
Explode. Yeah, that they get so close. And it's not just Obama's fault. It's Boehner and the Republicans' fault too. But they don't know how to negotiate.
But anyway, Bob, good points. I think it would be a good advice if they adhered to it, but I don't know if they will. Thanks for being with us.